Greetings, salutations, whatever Jake does with his usual intro. This is Corey and Schultz, episode 104. Thanks so much for joining us. As you could probably tell, Jake is not here. He is on assignment. I have no idea what that means. It just sounds cool to say that Jake is on assignment. He's not here today, which means that Corey Elliot is filling in for us of WGU Indiana fame. But you guys know Corey, especially if you're involved on Twitter. You can see his meltdowns after Texas sporting events. Also some Colts and Pacers and all of that. And I know you were at the Colts game yesterday, but we're excited about this episode. Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz episode 104 because Corey, looks like maybe the Colts turned their season around. Not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless.
A win that I did not expect. If there was one game where I thought at the beginning of the season was just like probably chalk it up as an L, it definitely wasn't the Jaguars or the Texans. It was this one. So for it to kind of flip the script a little bit, it feels like a new season in a way to get that W.
And we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to that because it was such an odd, on both sides, kind of an odd performance in that a lot of how it happened wasn't expected, like the Colts pass rush suddenly coming to life, seemingly out of nowhere after doing nothing in the first 2 weeks. A Chiefs offense that had been scoring over 35 a game gets limited to 17. They had 300 yards, which is like holding anybody else to 150. I mean, you keep Mahomes at 300 yards. That's crazy. And only third down conversions the entire game for the Chiefs offense, which I think is a testament to how well the Colts played defensively. You know, Corey, it was almost like one of those games where it just sort of felt like it was going to result in an ugly Colts win. And I almost tweeted, I wish I would have tweeted that earlier in the game because it just felt like everything was sort of trending that way. And, you know, say what you want about Kansas City's mistakes, and we'll kind of get into that, but it was just so important to finally have a winning performance to grab your bearings a little bit and maybe get this thing on track.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk, too, about the Gus Bradley effect because I don't know if you saw that stat about the last two times the Chiefs faced
it's not
him.
Pretty.
And then, so if you get stomped by the Jaguars, then you've got this Gus Bradley factoid out there about how he's failed to prepare when the Chiefs come to town. That one, it was gloomy. It was dark and gloomy going into it, and for it to be the home opener, having gone to the game and being around other fans, there was just this feeling of like, just come on, you know, like it's almost like you're getting dragged through something you don't really want to be a part of, but there's a small, you know, glimmer of hope that it's like, it's the home opener, we're here, let's at least see if they'll give it a good effort, and they did. And I think the other thing too is it never, you said 300 yards offense, but it never really felt like the Chiefs got rolling the way the Chiefs get rolling. If they had a touchdown like the Kelsey touchdown or a really good drive, then the next two drives were duds, you know. And so I think the Colts did a really good job at not letting them sink their teeth in and really gain momentum.
It's just funny because if you handed me a sheet and you said, okay, Jonathan Taylor's going to rush for 71 yards, like 3.5 a carry. The Colts are going to allow Matt Ryan to be hit 11 times and sacked 5 times. And they're still going to find a way to win, I would have laughed you out of the room. Like and they're going to score 20 points, and they're going to win. I would have laughed you out of the room. And I saw a stat from Peter Hood, which said that Mahomes is something like 32-2 when Kansas City holds opponents to 20 points or fewer, and the two losses are both against the Colts. The weird 2019 game, which felt eerily similar, even though I think the difference between yesterday and that game was that the Colts really executed well on both sides of the ball at Arrowhead. They played well. Yesterday, the defense played well. The offense was atrocious. I mean, it was a disaster. It's actually a miracle that they had the ball with a chance to win at the end of that game, how bad the offense looked. And I think, Corey, that's the biggest thing for the Colts to clean up here. If this offensive line doesn't get it together, it doesn't matter what Matt Ryan does. It doesn't matter what these receivers do. It doesn't matter what Jonathan Taylor does. It starts with that. If they can't get that going, then they're not going anywhere this year.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor's, I wouldn't say struggles necessarily because I know he only had, 9 carries in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
But only 71 yards yesterday. I think kind of, at least on paper, a middle-of-the-road ranked Kansas City defense. It kind of felt like doesn't have the same glow around him. Like, you know, he's the number one fantasy player. He's the best running back in the NFL, ranked by a lot of people, but he hasn't really had like a breakout run or a breakout game yet. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it doesn't even matter if you had Patrick Mahomes behind this line, right? If you don't have the people protecting Matt Ryan, he's never gonna have a chance to do what he did on the final drive, which I felt like he was under, or he was distressed. I think a lot of times, even in that drive, it was like I don't even know if he's gonna have a clean pass to get off. So that was it was encouraging to see, but there's still things to clean up, like you said. And one other really interesting thing that Colts fans, while we're moping around and you're just like, oh man, like I said, this is going to be a blowout or we're going to get dragged. Kansas City fans are like kind of scared of Colts of the Colts because Colts fans forget what we've done to them a lot of times. I mean, we were walking in, and a Chiefs fan was like, "Man, awesome city, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah, you guys are probably going to get out of here with a pretty win today." And he goes, "Oh no, you guys have our number always." He goes, "I don't understand it." He goes, "But I came here for that playoff game. What was that, 2013?"
Yeah, hard to believe it's been almost 10 years.
I know, right? And so like that was still on his mind, and so I'm just like, well, I guess it doesn't matter how many Super Bowls you go to and win the last few years. They come to Indianapolis and they're a little nervous something like that's going to happen again.
Yeah, 95, the Lynn Elliott game at Arrowhead that they ended up winning. The Colts did. And that was a shock with Jim Harbaugh and the Cardiac Colts. 03, they had that shootout, and the Colts ended up winning the divisional. That was really kind of Peyton Manning's breakthrough playoff win, I thought. Was at that point, he had won just one playoff game the week prior against Denver, and they went to Arrowhead and I think put up 45 points or whatever it ended up being. Sometimes I get the regular season game confused because they had a shootout regular season game too in there, but... Yeah. The comeback game, 06, people forget the first game of the Super Bowl run.
Yeah, they were
Larry Johnson and the Chiefs,
and their run defense was bad,
and they crushed them.
And that's funny. Speaking of that Denver playoff game, I think if I'm not mistaken, that's the one where Marvin Harrison wasn't touched and got up, took off running.
Yeah.
And so the reason I bring that up is because some Colts related Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, I'm sure you saw the Apple Watch and Louis Vuitton cleats on Twitter.
Pretty sweet.
That's total opposite of Marvin, right? Marvin would have been out there in white New Balances and. So I thought that was funny, but yeah, that's I forget how many times we have actually had the Chiefs number, and that Larry Johnson one specifically was like getting out of the RCA Dome with that wild card win, and then you got to go to Baltimore. It's like, how did we just pull that off, right? So we've had a lot of those with Kansas City.
Every team kind of has that team where they're just kind of the thorn in your side. I mean, whether it's Kansas and Texas Tech or anybody else with Texas, or if it's what you have here with the Colts in Kansas City, it's hard to explain. It's really hard to kind of explain why the Chiefs would score only 17 points with how they looked, and you would flush Mahomes the way that you did. I don't think it does the Colts justice to look and say, okay, well, they sacked him once.
Yeah.
You were at the game. Yeah. They constantly seemed to move him off his spot and pressure him.
It felt like I honestly a couple times because I was at the Texas-Alabama game, and it just felt like the Colts weren't going to go away quietly, defensively at least, which they needed, and it had the same vibes of like, I cannot believe how much pressure they're getting on Mahomes. It was kind of that same feeling of like they're really out playing themselves, I think, in terms of the capacity that they had in the first 2 weeks to get to the quarterback and hurry him. The other thing of it too was like, every time that Mahomes was a duress or stressed out, not stressed, duress. Cut this out, edit this part out. Sorry,
just go 3, 2, 1, and then we just edit it. It's magic.
Yeah. So it felt like every time that Mahomes ran out of the pocket and was under duress, it wasn't like Pat Mahomes magic, right? I think he had one throw over the middle where he kind of did the no look sideways thing, but usually he gets out of the pocket and it's like, okay, well now he's going to get 10, 15 yards or he's going to make something happen and get rid of the ball at the last second. There wasn't a lot of plays like that. So it wasn't just that, the line was getting to him, but the secondary, the linebackers, like, the second level, they were doing their job as well, really well. So yeah, they just continued to play really, really good defense, and then the offense getting their opportunities to add some points on the board to make sure the game didn't get away when Kansas City did go up and whatnot. So,
and it was you put it all on Mahomes because Edwards-Helaire had 7 carries for 0 yards. Mahomes was the leading rusher, and that's one area that at least we've seen. Like, I didn't really know what to do with the first 2 weeks, Corey, because in Jacksonville they were down 24-0. So what do you really say? Yay, we stopped the run. Like, who cares? Like, you got kind of punched in the face. But that's something that at least seems to have translated even a post-Matt Eberflus world for them, is that they're still elite against opposing running backs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Edwards-Helaire, too, CEH, is known in the fantasy world. I think I'm teetering on whether or not, I wouldn't say bust, but I mean the LSU hype from that run with Joey Burrow, and then he comes in and he's supposed to be this plug-and-play guy for that Kansas City offense, and last year was kind of, not that impressive. And then seeing him yesterday, I'm like, man, I don't know if this guy's as good as he was talked up to be. So, it felt like at times Kelsey was the only option for Pat Mahomes on that field yesterday. And obviously he got to him and got a touchdown, but really eliminated everything else on the field. for Kansas City in terms of their options, whether it was a run game or trying to find somebody open, and trying to get a drive going that would end in a score.
Let's talk about special teams too, because as much as we made in the first 2 weeks, particularly in week 1, about the kicking situation, Chase McLaughlin very quietly completely nailed a 51-yarder. That would have been good from 55 probably. Hit a 43-yarder as well. I don't think special teams necessarily did anything special with Sky Moore losing the ball in the sun.
Right.
But, they forced the turnover, right? You got to give them, I guess you have to give them credit for that. And I thought special teams did a great job.
Yeah, and then, as people probably saw Pat tweet out what he called art was the downing the ball in the one. And then I guess I would attribute this to just luck, but the missed field goal from Kansas City and kind of chalk that up as another special teams win for whatever reason. So
and the fake as well, which I don't know. What are you even doing?
Yeah.
If you're gonna go for it with Mahomes.
So
right.
So that's one of the things that drives me nuts the most. And couch coaches, right, and fans, they sit there and they have all the answers and we should be doing this and we should be doing that. There are some things that you don't have to have 25 years of coaching experience and X's and O's to know.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go for it on fourth down, go for it on fourth down, right? Like,
I'm with you.
Why would you not put your best pieces out there to try to get the first down? Why the trickery is, it kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when you consider who you have on your team. But the other thing of that too is like the exact same sense of it, going for it on fourth down for the Colts. Why in shotgun? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's another one of those things that I'm just on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. Why would you go? Like, I'm never going to be a fan of going for it on fourth down from shotgun unless you've got weapons all over the field.
Or tossing on 4th and 1. I hate. I think the Colts did that specifically because they had zero faith that they were going to be able to. They needed to buy Matt Ryan another half second by having him back there already.
Yeah.
I mean, they were every time the Chiefs brought an extra rusher, they were going to get home. Like it just felt like even like easy assignments where you don't have to be, I don't know, Rick Venturi or something to know like 2 guys coming through the A gap unblocked. Like it's like a communication malfunction, or I don't know if it's Kelly or if it's Ryan. Taylor missed a couple of assignments as well. It was a complete mess.
Yeah, it's I don't know, the Quentin Nelson hype. Obviously, he's fantastic, and I think because Jonathan Taylor had the season he had last year, and because you got Big Q up there, that some people maybe miss some of the literally holes that do exist on that offensive line. And it was very easy to see where the weakness still remains for this team on offense. Because, like I said, going back to the Jonathan Taylor thing, it felt to me like it's not his fault that he's not having that big breakout run yet, right? Yeah. Last year there was a lot of those 20, 40-yard bursts. Arizona won on like the 3rd offensive play of the game. He had like a 40-yard run. The big run against the Jets, the big run against the Patriots. Like, that doesn't feel possible right now with this line. And if it does happen, it's going to be because he worked his tail off to make guys miss.
Yeah, doing it. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And it seems like every week you've had one like extreme weak link. Like in Houston, Braden Smith was just terrible all day. Pinter yesterday got like run over. Yeah. It looked like it was me trying to play guard. Like
I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was. He's lucky he didn't like hurt himself. And I wonder. We're only talking about 3 weeks, but if we maybe talk about shuffling some things around, like do you bump Pryor to one of the guard spots? Do you bring in Dennis Kelly? I mean, I don't know. Do you kick somebody else out to a different spot? I think you got to, if Ryman comes back healthy, then maybe you put him into the lineup and then shuffle. I don't know, Corey. I think the core of it is that Kelly and Smith have to be better. I think Nelson, for the most part, has held up his end of the bargain. Kelly and Smith have to be way, way better than they've been.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a larger topic here, Derek, that I've tweeted about it. It's like, I don't really know, in the offseason where the miss was on looking at the wide receiver depth chart and being like, we've got to do something more than this. And it's not a knock on those guys, but it feels like what's been exposed, even in the win in the first 3 weeks, is that like the things that some people figured wouldn't be great haven't really been great. And the things that have been kind of surprising, like the O-line not being very good, you can start to see like there's areas that there should have been maybe a little bit more emphasis put on in free agency and whatnot. I know in the draft there was. I agree. So, but it feels as if the stuff that was pretty evident, needing an upgrade is needing an upgrade. With that said, though, 1-1-1, new season. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
Sky was falling a week ago,
but we, I tried to qualify. The Colts deserved everything that they got last week. By the way, that wasn't like hot takes, sports talk, drive time radio. They deserved to get undressed. But I try to qualify every criticism. I said this on Twitter. I try to qualify every criticism that I had for the Colts last week with, hey, 15 games left.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I responded to a Stephen Holder tweet, and I said, yeah, 15 games left.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel right now like this turnaround is going to happen immediately. And then, of course, the turnaround happens kind of immediately. What's interesting about yesterday is that the division looked much better.
Yeah.
I think we maybe need to start to recalibrate what we think about Jacksonville. I thought they were going to be good and better than people thought, but I thought good like 7-10. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this team's going to contend for the division, but maybe maybe they can contend for the division now.
Yeah, and in a way with that too. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has taken a pretty big step. I think a little bit of that has contributed to the fact that there's a little bit less like internal chaos or turmoil going on.
Peterson knows what he's doing. Yeah,
so,
that too. Yeah.
So it's that
no
from
Urban.
That for me is like probably the main thing that I think we're finally getting to see. You know, his I guess they're getting the most out of that position, and I know ETN is obviously solid, and I think that they're probably for me right now who I'm most worried about in the division, where we thought it would be Tennessee, and I know that Tannehill kind of I don't know, like this might be his final run there. I know they got to the AFC title game or the AFC divisional round like a couple years in a row, won the division a couple years back to back, but I think they're on their way out. Jacksonville's stock is going up, and the Colts are just trying to hang another AFC finalist banner as best we can.
Well, I'd sign up for that right now with where this team has been. But I think it's another thing is that, and again, we're talking about a 3-game sample size, but Jacksonville really invested in free agency, and Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, like those guys have contributed for them. So, I don't want to make it all about the Colts. Issues you can point to Ballard, Reich, the offensive line. There's a lot to fix and a lot that's going on. You pointed out the wide receiver room. But I do think that at the end of the day, if this offensive line could just be competent, average to good, like it's a low bar. I'm not even asking them to be an elite offensive line. If this could just be a average to good offensive line with Ryan and his accuracy and his veteran savvy, I think the offense can be okay or at least good enough to win this garbage pile division. Yeah,
and I think the other thing too is when you look at the AFC South and consider what it is at face value, despite Jacksonville looking better, despite the Titans not looking great, despite the Colts being a giant question mark, it's a pretty wide open thing. And I think that going back to last week when, like I said, the sky was falling, and I was upset. Everybody was upset. I mean, even if I remember covering the Colts, and you're not supposed to have the unbiased, fair, et cetera, but you still have that small part of you where it's frustrating to even cover when you see a team underperforming like this, because you got to ask the same questions. You're going to get the same answers. You're not going to get down to the root of like what the problem is, and you're watching it with your own eyes, a dumpster fire at times. But you know that they're not going to fire anybody in season unless it was incredibly egregious, like an 0-9 start, right? I mean, they've never really been like a franchise that traditionally makes huge moves in any sense like that during the season. No, what they actually do is they wait till after the season and extend their GM and coach 4 years when things aren't great. But
we have been through a couple of those.
Yeah, but everybody overreacted. Everybody probably didn't take as deep a breath, myself included, as they should after Jacksonville. But when you lose 24-0 to the Jaguars and you haven't won there since 2014, there's not really an opportunity to take a deep breath, right? And I think yesterday
100%.
was the deep breath for the Colts. If like you look at 1-1-1, a weird ugly tie, a horrible ugly loss, and then like I guess a win that you can sort of champion yourself for, because everybody picked before the season it was going to be AFC Colts AFC Championship. A lot of national talking heads were like, I think Colts can make a big leap. I mean, Colts, Chiefs, AFC Championship.
Their Vegas odds were crazy for the division and all that.
Yeah, and so yesterday was kind of like, it's almost as if it was like everybody just, we're going to start this over, right? It's like when you get down by 4 touchdowns in Madden and you quit the game and you start your game over so you don't take the loss. But it's like a reset button. It was a giant breath. I mean, walking out of there were some Colts fans too that were like high-fiving each other and all that. But there were other Colts fans that were just like,
what just happened?
Because it wasn't just a late touchdown. It was a pick. It was a defensive stop, et cetera. But there was a lot of stale faces of just like, all right, okay, yeah, 1-1-1.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was very Colts to bounce back from that performance. Remember, they did this all the time with Pagano. They'd get run by the Rams, the Cardinals, the Bears. They come back the next week and win.
Yeah.
Every single time they came back the next week and won. And you mentioned that having the Chiefs number, but this has been such a weird start to the season because you have essentially kind of a fluky tie, a fluky loss just because that was as bad as you could possibly play. And then, I'm not trying to discredit the Colts. It was kind of a fluky win that the Chiefs played that poorly and made that many mistakes. So you have 3 games, but they're 3 kind of – I don't know where to go with this. Like, nothing that happened in Game 1, Game 2, or Game 3 seems very sustainable to me overall for them.
Well, and can take this into consideration, too. I think that this is accurate. I mean, I may be wrong here, but I think that was the Chiefs' first road game. I think they were home. They had the Thursday night game. And then I think week 1 they were home as well,
Chargers.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
So that was their first road game.
Yeah, I guess
that was the Colts' first home game.
Yeah.
And I think that matters. I think when you tie Houston and you come back and you have a great week of practice, right? And then you got to get on the plane and go down to Jacksonville, which is like, the splinter in the hands of the Colts, and it is just as ugly as it was in January. You get to come home. There's got to be like a big part of it that's like, you know what, energy's a little different. You feel a little bit different. You're going to go out and show out in front of your fans for the first time. And then for the Chiefs, not a very long way to travel, but at the same time, it's the first time on the road. Maybe they learned a little bit about what they're like in a road environment, despite how many Chiefs fans were there. It was very loud at times yesterday, like to the point where I was making comments like, I wish this was in the RCA Dome, and the shirt you have on.
Right.
Made me think, because I mean the way it used to get in there, there was kind of like this roof wouldn't open right now, and it was a dome. It would be rocking. So maybe they faced a little bit of their first adversity and learned a little bit themselves as well.
Kind of strange to say, but and I don't know. I was a failed varsity high school wrestler. That's as far as I got as an athlete was concerned. But if I'm an opposing player, I think the conventional wisdom says, "Oh, this is embarrassing. There are 30,000 Chiefs fans here." If I'm a Colts player and I get out on the field and I see 30,000 Chiefs fans, I'm even more fired up than if it was 70,000 people just in blue.
Yeah.
Tell me, because you were in the stadium. I was not yesterday. What was that atmosphere kind of like? The wild back and forth of that game.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think Shaquille Leonard was doing his job on the sideline. I don't know if they showed on the broadcast.
Yeah, pumping everything up.
Pumping everybody up. So even if there were 30,000 Chiefs fans there, the remaining 30,000 plus Colts fans were feeding off of his energy. He was pretty fired up. But yeah, it was a lot of upper bowls, so the cheers and stuff were faint. And I think the one thing that stops the 30,000 or the good road crowd from becoming basically the pseudo home crowd is when they don't, like I said, get a chance to get rolling. Because away fans, I try to be as polite as possible and nice, but sometimes you deal with
debatable,
jerks. Yeah, sometimes you deal with jerks, and you get to that point where if you're the Chiefs and you're coming in here, you're 2-0 and you're playing the Colts. If that game would have got to like 31-13 or 24-13. There starts to be some chants. Colts fans leave. Chiefs fans move down. It starts to suck the energy out of everything. So I think in not letting the Chiefs just take off with it, it never really let the crowd, the really well-traveled crowd, kind of create some of the energy for their sideline. So it was loud, but it was, I think the Colts fans, at third downs were insane. I mean, it was loud, and I don't know if I've ever really felt it that loud in Lucas Oil for a while. Maybe the run against the Patriots last year when Taylor took off. I mean, that place erupted. Obviously, so that was Saturday night game was probably the loudest. That game was probably the loudest I've heard since that Saturday night game against the Patriots last year.
That's a great point too about how important it was, because you see this happen where fans are ready to pounce. Things are not going well, and if the next thing doesn't go well, they're ready to just unleash, boo, throw stuff, whatever. And the fact that they had that big special teams turnover almost immediately like that, it kind of set the tone. I felt like it called off the dogs, if you will. And fans sort of relaxed, and the Colts never felt like they were facing some sort of insurmountable deficit or threat.
Yeah, and I expected more boo birds from the Colts fans taken out on that team yesterday for the small things, just because of the frustration from the first 2 weeks. I think part of the lower bowl was booing them off the field at halftime, I believe. There was something.
The 4th and shorts, there had to have been some of that.
There's a couple of those, So they. But like I said, I think it had more to do with people. This is their first chance to really tell them in person. I'm at the game and I'm going to let you know how disgusted I am with the first 2 weeks. So it wasn't really boo worthy. It was just like some people had some skeletons to pull out of the closet on them. So
we've got Corey Elliot, WGU Indiana, filling in for Jay Query here. Episode 104 of Query and Schultz is brought to you by Bailey & Wood Financial Group, and also our friends at Lou Malnati's, which will be for the Thursday night game. We're going to be live at the Broad Ripple location, Jake and I, from 6 to 8 on October 6th, and we're super geeked about that. In fact, we just had a best friend buddy lunch on Friday. It was lovely. Jake texted me and said, hey, I miss you. We haven't hung out in a while. Let's go grab a pie. And I said, absolutely, my man. Tell me when. And we went and met one of the Jennifers there at Lou Malnati's. They're always great. The food was delicious, and we can't wait to be there for a live remote coming up here Thursday, October 6th, so right around the corner, a week from Thursday. A big set here because you've got Tennessee and then at Denver, and I think an interesting path forward here for the Colts, which I know Corey and I are going to talk about us a little bit more. But who's cooking? We essentially pick our player or unit of the week. I think you can kind of give it to the whole defense, but really what I ended up choosing for mine this week was Kiki Kuti because former Texas Tech Red Raider.
Okay.
And he just knows winning. He comes from a culture in Lubbock that is very strong. You saw what happened over the weekend and them knocking off the Texas Longhorns, and he just knows how to win. And did he have a catch? Did he have a target? No, he didn't have those things, but he was an emotional leader. Thank you, Greg, for that great picture that you caught there of Kiki. And he was just fantastic. I don't think you can undersell. You can't look at a stat sheet and understand the impact of the former Red Raider. So guns up for Kiki Kuti.
You know, I appreciate your dedication to. Let me go back to the best friend lunch really quick. It's interesting because I saw the photo on Twitter.
Yes.
And whenever you and I link up, like when you came down to the South Side to Wits End and we took a photo, you're like, "Hey, don't put that on social. I don't want people to see that we're hanging out." Like, so I don't get. We don't get. You tell me
after this that'll change.
You tell me
we're building the trust here.
So that's great. I see that. I get a little jealous, but anyway, yeah. So. Just because of that, I'm going to fight fire with fire here. And even though he was inactive, I'm going to pick Sam Ellinger just because of the preseason that he had.
Okay.
And I know that even though he was inactive yesterday, I know that the heartbeat of the Indianapolis Colts is former Texas Longhorn Sam Ellinger. He is the energy, the foundation.
Okay.
He lifts them up on his back. I'm sure he's like Rudy in practice. He probably got the defense ready this week for Pat because he is such a great former Texas Longhorn quarterback. Yeah. And I Texas Tech. Are you done with that? Or are we gonna?
Oh yeah, that was the only one. We're not going to mention Texas Tech for the rest of the show.
Because you did Kansas too, and Kansas is actually playing good football this year, so that's not as much of a burn as you think it is.
Oh, I don't remember. Oh yeah, I guess I did mention them earlier. It's not even something. It's just subconsciously. It's just it's in here. In all seriousness, the entire Colts defense really is who is cooking. I mean, it was an incredible performance, but something to build on.
Jelani Woods, though. I mean
that's not a bad one either.
To me, I think the tight end position. It's first of all, the tight end position in the NFL, it starts with Travis Kelce, then you go Mark Andrews, and then there's a couple people that you can throw in there as like the elite tight ends. But it's really pedestrian. And I don't mean that in a negative way, that like tight end is an unimportant position or that there's not anybody good. There's obviously good tight ends in the NFL.
Not a lot of game changers.
There's just not a lot of game changers. They're not somebody that you've got to like all week put attention on like Travis Kelce. And the Colts, they get Kobe Fleener, they have Dwayne Allen, then they go Jack Doyle and then Mo Alley Cox, and there's just been this years-long run of like pretty like middle of the road names.
Whatever.
I mean, they'll get the job done, but they're nobody really great. The way he played yesterday was like, man, like if we can protect Matt Ryan, this could be like the supplemental weapon that they didn't get in that wide receiver room. And I'm not taking anything away from Mo Alley Cox. I mean, he's been sufficient and scored a couple touchdowns for us in recent games, and he's an athlete, a specimen, as I would call anybody who can jump over somebody and high point the ball. But he did a little bit of that yesterday, Jelani Woods, and it was encouraging to see. Like, man, maybe he could be a dude.
He looks, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible. He looks kind of ridiculous running. Like, he's so big that when he's running around out there and you're like, wait, is that an eligible lineman? Like, the only reason that I knew that it's him is because it's a number 80 and not like 67 or something like that. Like, he is such a big dude. Just as a red zone threat, if he could be that in year one and then you build upon that for the future, that would be great for this team moving forward.
I think a lot of the stuff that makes some of those other guys I mentioned great is it's red zone, a big target, et cetera. They get a little bit of the pass and run blocking too that they contribute sometimes, but it's the route running, right? Mm-hmm. Like Gronk could run really good routes. Like Kelce is really good out in open space. There's some tight ends that you have your little 5-yard flat check down, or they can be an over the middle 5-yard hook route or something, but you get guys like Kelce that he'll take you up the seam, he'll run like his route trees are way more advanced than other tight ends, and so the defense. I would say Jelani Woods would be my who's cooking, and then just the optimism that comes with it, that you develop this guy and you might have a dude.
Order.lumalnati's.com for our friends at Lou's. You can check out any of their 4 Indy area locations, one coming up here in Avon, but the Broad Ripple store, Greenwood down in Corey's neck of the woods, West 86th Street, also up in Carmel, and can't wait to be there. Thursday, October 6th for our Lou Malnati's remote. What stood out about week 3 in the NFL? We're going to talk about that as Corey continues to fill in for Jay Query. We got some sandwiches to eat. We've got some college football as well to talk about. Where can Texas Tech go from here? Is the college football playoff on the table for the Red Raiders? We'll mix that in with Indiana, Purdue, and Notre Dame as well when we return. It's episode 104 of Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
They said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood, Mortgage Lender, presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network alongside Corey Elliot. Filling in for Jay Query, my name is Derek Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you're watching on Comcast 81, maybe you're watching on the Corey and Schultz YouTube channel via podcast form, so you can't even see us right now. However you're consuming the show, thanks so much for being here and for hanging out with us. And thank God we actually get to talk about a win, which is a nice change of pace here. Before we get to our WGU Indiana Sage Move of the Week, which I know is right in your wheelhouse, Corey, as you're an employee there of WGU Indiana, some things that stood out. We kind of go around, Jake and I usually, around the NFL, non-Colts related. We had mentioned Tennessee winning, Jacksonville winning. I think certainly that jumped out. But how about the Dolphins? Yeah. Off to a 3-0 start now after holding off Buffalo. Good for them.
Yeah, that I think that's probably the most impressive and probably got to be the richest of them all for Dolphins fans too, because all the videos from they get Tyreek Hill and then the videos of Tua underthrowing him a couple times, and I think he got a little bit dragged a little bit unfairly on social, and just if he's good or not, is he a bust, etc. But they look like, I thought Tyreek Hill was going to go there and sort of just fade into the abyss, because I didn't know how, Pat Mahomes, I mean, you wonder, is it Tyreek because of Pat? Is it Pat because of Tyreek? Sure. Then you go to Miami, and it's like, all they got to do is target Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and then what do they have? And they got Gesicki. He's a former Notre Dame Fighting Irish, right?
Yeah.
So he's looking pretty good. Speaking of the tight ends in the last segment, he's one that's kind of popping out. But they look like a complete team. And I think the fun thing is that the AFC East doesn't belong to New England.
Yeah, it actually feels like these teams have a chance.
I think the Bills are probably going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me
They're
too.
playing like they're going to win the Super Bowl by a lot of points. Yesterday, though, sort of brought a little bit of reality back down. Like, it's still an 18 week season. It's still a grind. You still get these pockets where teams that are showing out this year and trying to make their space in the conversation are going to come up and bite you. And so far, Miami, I mean, that shootout with Baltimore, and then they beat the Bills yesterday. It's kind of like, all right, maybe the AFC East is just as open as the AFC South appears to be right now.
And it sucks because I feel like we all do this. We all fall victim to this, and it's just this. We need instant gratification with everything in life, not just that, but also in sports. Sometimes it just takes a minute. Like, look at what Jalen Hurts is doing. It took him a while, right? Yeah. Look at what Tua's doing. It takes him. It took Josh Allen a while. I remember watching his rookie year, and I was like, this guy, 50% completion at Wyoming. I mean, come on.
It took Peyton Manning a while. I mean, people.
And sometimes you're Sam Darnold, and you just or Baker Mayfield, and you just continue to stink. But some of these guys actually grow and progress and get better.
Yeah, well, it's not Baker's fault that he stinks. He went to OU. But I mean, that's besides the point. I mean, and then in the same token, though, like Kyler Murray, with Arizona, he looked like he was going to be a Lamar Jackson-esque type weapon, and he's kind of been a little bit of up and down trajectory. Not that he's by any means not the guy there. I'm just saying that some people regress where other people start to progress. So it's fun time in the NFL. There's not that. I mean, the Rams, they looked like they were going to be one of the top favorites in the NFC, and then they get smacked by the Bills, and then that even the Buccaneers Packers game is kind of slow as that game was. It still was like these are two pretty solid
14
teams.
to 12. You're not expecting that.
Yeah, two pretty solid teams. I think that sometimes they're just so good that they look kind of flat. Like their defenses were showing up yesterday, and kind of the same thing with the Colts and the Chiefs is that. I expected Kansas City to come in here like we were going to win. If the Colts were going to knock off the Chiefs, I thought it was going to have to be like 45-38 Colts. One of those high-powered, just 400 yards, tons of touchdowns, and it was more of a defensive game than anything. And that's kind of what that Buccaneers and Packers game was.
Yeah, if you had the unders yesterday, I think you probably did pretty well across the NFL.
Yeah, I typically don't talk about betting on Monday when it didn't work out on Sunday. So I had a little I sprinkled something on my Astros Saturday night when they were down to Baltimore, won me about $55, and I went to bed like putting that on some stuff tomorrow for the Colts game, and not a single. I don't think I had any green checks on my part.
Yeah, because Jonathan Taylor, anytime scorer, right? And it's like, no, that didn't happen. Kelsey, no,
So yeah, well, as per usual, we had an up Saturday night, had a down Sunday. So we'll go take about 3 or 4 days off and think about how we're going to attack the next week in the games.
It's just tough, man. I mean, the things that happen where the Colts will lose 24 donut to Jacksonville and then come back and hold Mahomes and Kansas City down the way they did. Notre Dame couldn't run or pass or do anything offensively in the first couple of weeks, and then they score 45. They really should have scored 52 at North Carolina. I thought about, man, the Heels 2.5. I should be all over that, but luckily I ended up holding off. But that's life in the wagering world. It's fun, but it's kind of hard to figure out how random stuff happens. Let's get to our Sage Move of the Week. It's brought to you by our friends at WGU Indiana, wgu.indiana.edu, and you've got the swag on. We've got, I don't like looking directly in his eyes, but we've got Sage right there as well. Tell us, Corey, about all that WGU Indiana can offer our listeners.
Yeah, well, first of all, on that note, it's our 25th anniversary nationally, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
It is. So we're a national university. Indiana's the affiliate. Little Sage Coach T-shirt. We have this wrapped RV that went around our central region. And it had some of the stops in there. I brought you one, but I never know how short you actually are. And some days you feel like we're sitting, hanging out, having a drink and pizza, and I'm like, he's not as short as I thought. And then other days I see the Patrick Ewing photo, and I'm like, so I get to the point of that is I brought you a medium, I brought you a large, and I brought you an XL to wear as a jammy shirt.
Perfect.
When you feel. Distribute them out however you want to do, but it's got the 25th anniversary logo on the front.
Yeah, I like this.
It shows us where we've been. Obviously, if you've followed me and you've seen. I was in Pittsburgh, Detroit. We were all over engaging students and staff and alumni.
Sure.
So WGU, what's really cool about being here today is we just had, in honor of our 25th anniversary nationally, we had a commencement hosted here in Indianapolis. We did more commencements this year than we usually do. And so that people understand, we enroll the first of every month, and you graduate on your own time and your own pace. Competency-based education. So you demonstrate your competency. It's not seat time. It's demonstrating what you know. So people can, average time is about 2.5, 3 years for people to get through a bachelor's degree.
Sure.
And because of that, when we have these commencements staggered out, you can kind of pick when you want to walk. So we had some people that literally graduated last month that were here. We had some people that graduated earlier this year that came to this one because it was the closest one across the country. But it was my first commencement that I've got to be a part of, and I think one really, really cool thing that we're more targeted towards the adult learner. Our average age has dropped from 35 to about 32, but the really cool thing about being that sort of adult learner focused in a sense is the amount of people Saturday at the Coliseum at the fairgrounds. You got moms or dads holding their kids and they're pointing like there's mommy, there's daddy, and people they sit down in these chairs, and some of the stories are. Someone, to explain how the competency-based education works is, let's say you were a receptionist at an accounting firm for 11 years, and then you're like, it's time for me to get my degree. Well, if you went through our business program for accounting, there's probably a lot of stuff that you could demonstrate your competency and move on just from being around that line of work. And so we had people there Saturday who were probably that kind of person, like, I'm going to get my degree, and WGU is the right fit. We had a lot of people that, stopped their degree path 11, 12 years ago. I think the oldest grad we had Saturday was 80 and the youngest was 19.
Wow.
So it's really, really inspiring to be around. I think like higher ed isn't for everybody, right? And there's people who go on, have really successful careers, that maybe a trade or something like that. But for a lot of people who do want their degree, I mean, WGU is truly one of the only options that works for them. Not the only option. Certainly people can go to another university, and the same as, WGU may be the only way people can do it. We're also not for someone who wants the traditional college model. If you want to experience that, but I think that it just comes down to the fact that there's so many people that they decide to finish, or they decide to go through with it, and online, on your time, nights and weekends. That's why Sage's the night owl. It's pretty common to hear folks do their work on nights and weekends. But you're balancing life, work, family. You're getting your degree, and so there's a lot of tears Saturday at the Coliseum between people in the crowd and both people sitting in their seats. We had 418 undergrad commencement participants, and we had 426 masters participants. So there was almost 900 lives changed on Saturday at the Coliseum, moving on now to a career in their line of work. So.
And congrats to all of them.
Yeah.
WGU.indiana.edu to see all of the degree programs and earn your degree on your own time with our friends at WGU Indiana. You guys have been awesome.
Yeah.
Really from day one, sponsors of this show.
Yeah, and I want to add to that really quickly on the just degree programs and everything. We're being a nonprofit, the money from tuition that we get goes right back into the students. I think last month alone we had somewhere upwards of $86,000 awarded in scholarships. So not already that we're affordable and a fraction of the cost of a traditional four-year university. We pour it right back into our students with a lot of scholarship opportunities. So we're great partners with Ivy Tech. We have a lot of people that transfer in. They come in from 2 years at Ivy Tech to us and finish. And typically are not only doing it at a cost that's affordable, but we're offering a lot of scholarship opportunities that take the financial burden of returning or finishing your degree out of the equation. So yeah, we love partnering with you guys. I like being here in the role of WGU Indiana that I have. I also have a little bit of the nostalgic factor that I gave this life up a few years ago from the reporting side. And I jumped, did some work for the AP and had some time at local newspaper. And I know I co-hosted with you on the radio a couple of times. So it's fun to be back in this capacity.
Scratch that itch a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a quick funny story about that. Actually, you interviewed for the job at WGU Indiana from the parking lot at WNDE, the old radio station where Jake and I did this, because you were filling in that day and you're like, hey, I have an interview at whatever it was, 6 o'clock or something.
I totally forgot about that.
And you did the interview in the car, because I remember waving to you. You were on the phone.
I was on. It was one of my.
The rest is history.
Interviews. Yeah, that's right. That was one of the days that I filled in with you on the air, and was like, I got to go. I'm going to try to get a new career path here. So.
I knew you had nailed it. Let's get to our Sage move of the week. I was going to pick the Eagles because I don't think anybody's really talking about them. They're 3-0. They've given up just 15 points the last 2 weeks, and the schedule will get tougher coming up here. But I really just thought the way that the Red Raider defense stormed Bijan Robinson in overtime and punched the ball out, just really a massive play to get that from the weak-handed Robinson after you give up the game-tying field goal. I know that was really tough to do in regulation. You feel like Texas has got a lot of the momentum for Texas Tech to say, you know what, no, not today. We're not going to let an inferior opponent come in here and win in our home stadium. Let's get this ball out. Let's get this game-winning field goal and take care of business. Obviously, Texas Tech will have far bigger tests coming up here than just Texas. Like, it's September. This is the kind of the time for cupcakes and things like that.
Yep.
And they almost spat a cupcake out on Saturday by blowing that game, but found a way to get the job done.
Yeah. So you got it out. Got it out of your system.
I'm just picking. This is what we do on the show, Corey. This is what we pick. A noted Texas football fan, Corey Elliot, new to this program.
Well, I tell you what. We're on to West Virginia. That's where I'm at.
Oh, is that the next one?
We're on to West Virginia.
I feel like you went to one of those games and it did not
in Morgantown
go well.
last year. No, it did not. It did not. A whole Milan Pushkar Stadium singing "Country Roads" was like, and this is neat, but we just lost, so whatever. So I appreciate your dedication to jabbing me a little bit. But, it's fine. They got West Virginia coming into Austin this weekend, and then I will be in Dallas in 2 weeks for the Red River game. So against, as you mentioned, inferior opponents, OU. But, yeah.
Hope springs eternal.
I appreciate that of all the football you watched on Saturday, that you cared that much about the Texas and Texas Tech game. At least I know that you were locked into it. Do I get to pick my Sage move of the week now?
Of course.
Okay. I don't have. See, we're friends, Derek. So I didn't come here with intent to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
I didn't.
No, neither did I. This is just a sports show, and I'm talking sports. That's all.
I didn't come here to.
I'm not trolling or anything.
I mean, I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings about your height. I was genuinely telling you why I picked 3 shirts.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Whereas you just deliberately took this to an opportunity to bash me over the head with Saturday's loss. I mean, I'm going to keep it simple and the Colts. The sky was falling, and
right.
I just think that was an absolute, as you said, even if it was an ugly win, it was just one you can. The little bit left in the tank had to be used on that game. And
you saved the boat from sinking.
Yeah, because I think if you lose that game and the Colts are 1-1 or 2-0, you can lose that game and say, hey, that's a team that they may see in the postseason. When you lose that game after you lose to the Jaguars and you tie the Texans, it really starts to feel like, man, this season's washed. Like so you could be 2-0 or 1-1 and lose that game and have some optimism about it. There was no losing that game yesterday. I mean, there were people who were probably going to sell a lot of their tickets the rest of the season if they lost that game yesterday.
I agree.
So I think it has to go there. I would have loved for the Sage move of the week to be the 4-play, 77-yard drive that Texas had to kick a field goal to go into overtime, which then eventually got them to win. But as you noted, Bijan Robinson, who is the best running back in the nation, does something that I didn't think he even had the capacity to do and fumble. So the Longhorns took my opportunity to come on here and give them shine for the Sage move of the week, so I got to give it to the Colts.
Yeah, I know the football is brown, but you kind of saw it squirt out there, and they were like, it almost looked like a little bronze statue because there was the Heisman or whatever chance it was just kind of fumbling away into Lubbock, which is an amazing college town, just a great community, just a great place.
You know, you can see all of Lubbock from the first floor of any building.
I've heard that joke several times.
They have one building. They have one building, and just
middle of nowhere, right?
I mean, I don't like to call places wastelands, but it is near Oklahoma. I mean, you consider the geography of it and how I feel about Oklahoma, and then you got Lubbock, Texas is kind of up there near the Panhandle. It's like I get why Lubbock is the way it is.
And both Texas Tech and Oklahoma, speaking of wastelands, will have the chance to waste Texas within the span of about 3 weeks. So
you'll hear all about it in 2 weeks on Twitter. If anybody wants to follow the journey, I'm telling you right now, last year I was at the Red River game. Texas goes up 28-7, score on the first play of the game. Yeah. I mean, it was looking like it was going to be a fun night in Dallas. And that roller coaster that was me on Twitter that day and the text that I got from people. I actually... A very wild thing about that day.
I texted you.
It really,
I was literally worried about your mental situation.
Can I share this quick story? Because this is actually a wild thing about that day. So there's like a DART train, like a little trolley that goes from downtown Dallas to Fair Park. That's all the fans take it from their hotels. And I get on this thing, and I'm on it with 5 OU fans. All right, the 28-7 lead was blown over a 3-quarter span. OU walks it off pretty much. To beat Texas, and I get on this train, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's banter, and there's the horns down and the trash talking, but it just, and I could feel that they felt that I don't want to hear it. And the guy on the train just goes, man, I hope that's the worst thing that happens today. It's like, I don't even know what to say. Like an OU fan talking to me, and I'm just like, I appreciate your condolences, except for it wasn't the worst thing that happened to me that day. I stayed on the west side of downtown, which was where a lot of OU fans were staying, and I get back to my hotel. And I'm getting ready to go up, freshen up, meet my buddies out. And there's a guy sitting at the front door next to a security guard. And he's like, hey, you have to get your stuff and you gotta check out. And I laugh it off as like, okay, this guy's clearly an OU fan that works here. And I'm like, hi. And the security guard goes, no, what room are you in? And he like radios in. He's like, everybody's out. We got to get out of the hotel. And I was like, and he was like, there's a water break. OU fans came back and apparently were punching ceiling tiles like on each other's shoulders. Somebody like hit something that on the literal floor that I was on busted a water line. And it wasn't like here's a refund for your entire stay. It was like, we're only going to charge you for one night. They literally removed people out of the hotel. So Texas blows a 28-7 lead. Katie calls me to ask me how my day's going. She's shooting a wedding and gets a 5-minute break on it. And I said, well, I have all my luggage and I'm walking down downtown Dallas right now to my buddy's hotel to see if they've got room on their floor to stay. She was like, well, what happened? I'm like, tell the whole story. So they lose. My hotel gets closed down. And I'm doing like a sad luggage roll walk in downtown Dallas, which of course, still in my Texas stuff, right? I didn't have time to change. Not that I would be embarrassed or not want to wear it, but it just brought all the honking and horns down of OU fans leaving town. Yeah. It was probably the most movie moment of my life that I've had to date, is that 5-block walk across downtown after blowing that lead.
Look at this dude in the Longhorns jersey, and he's got his roller suitcase behind him. He's getting out of here as soon as possible. Yeah, it's pretty miserable. I remember hearing the rest of that story. It was not a fun one. Hopefully this weekend, the Red River rivalry coming up here will be a better one for you. We have sandwiches to eat. We've got in-state Indiana college football to talk about. Kind of a interesting weekend, I think, for all 3 teams. We'll discuss when we return. It's Corey and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
McCulling in time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is good.
There you go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel a little momentum starting to fall Ellen's way.
That is Wrestler! Wrestler! Whoa!
Rolling right along in a queryless edition of Query and Schultz here on the IC Sports Network alongside Corey Elliot, WGU Indiana, filling in for Jake. I'm Derek Schultz. Thanks a lot for being here. We're always happy to have our friends at Hoagies and Hops here with us because it is time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week. Now, Corey, I know you're new to this tradition, Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard in Midtown. But what we do is every single week we have one of Christina's Hoagies here. We've eaten through the menu, I think, 3 times now. Talk about the sandwich, and then also pick a Hero of the Week. But what I have here in my left hand is the Pit Twist. So it's very Philly, PA. This is Rakestraw's favorite one, I think.
I saw
very,
that
very
through the
Philly,
window,
PA, kind of South Jersey. But, you know, because it's still Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh and Philly are very different.
Yeah.
Philly is distinctly a northeastern city, and I always felt like Pittsburgh was more of like a Cleveland, Midwestern type.
I was just there 2 weeks ago.
City.
I would totally agree.
Like that's kind of the vibe that it gives me. But anyway, she wanted to pay some homage to somebody else who shares the state with Philly. So potato chips on, slaw on, ham, provolone, mayo.
The chips for me, that's what really stole my heart when I just saw it. I haven't even tasted it yet. But
it's the Hers potato chips too.
I would come
Philly.
home
They're
in
really
high
good.
school. Yeah, I'd get out of Greenwood High School, come home for like a midday sandwich sort of snack. It was always Miracle Whip, bologna, potato chips. That's how I roll.
Breakfast at Champs.
I mean,
I'm not hating. Yeah,
that's what I've done my days in Bloomington and in college, etc. That was always a go-to, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like the poor college kid, but I mean, it was more of like that's even if I had the money to go get something I wanted, that a sandwich like this is what I preferred. So,
do you ever still dial it up every once in a while, like at your house now, just for nostalgia's sake?
Well, especially like with Clayton, right? I'm trying to indoctrinate him into the right ways of life. You know, horns up, go Astros, etc.
Corey has a first grader, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's so he's, Dad, let's have a snack. And I'm like, say no more, right? I got you. So we go fire up the bologna and chips whenever it's available. But it's a go-to. I'd like for that to become more of a staple of his life. So I probably need to do better in terms of dadding to make sure that bologna, Miracle Whip, and potato chips becomes more of a constant for him.
Maybe we can get that on the menu with Christina and Hoagies and Hops. You got to take Claybug in there sometime.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, the crunch, too.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if I mayo in my beard.
That's what it is for me, right? The texture. It's that crunch.
Let's talk college football. In-state. Let's get the – do you want the bad news or the good news first? Should we start
bad?
Okay.
Start bad.
And I'll be honest, I think people – when things go bad for Indiana against teams that are clearly better than them – like, I don't judge Indiana on Ohio State or Michigan. I judge them on
they play them really well.
Maryland. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want them to be competitive, don't get me wrong. But, they're a 17-point dog to Cincinnati. The first half is a complete disaster. I thought they played well in the second half. Certainly well enough to win. They had umpteen chances to really make that a game and put pressure on UC, and they never really did that. They never got within more than 2 scores. But overall, people were just having a meltdown in the first half, and I get it. And, Indiana looked incompetent. They were shooting both of their feet off. But I kind of chalk that up to an auto loss. And this game against Nebraska, to me, is far more important than this game against Cincy.
Not to bring everything back to Texas, but I think the point you're making is kind of what I thought when I went down there for the Alabama game. Like, this game's going to tell me nothing about the season.
Yeah.
Like, this is an opponent that you play them well, you play them tough, you get out of here with a win, great. If not, there's still conference play. There's still a lot of opportunity. Here's the thing about Indiana football fans, and I'm speaking this from firsthand experience. A lot of people forget that moment in 07, I think, Austin Starr, right?
Yeah,
Bucket
game.
Just to win the bucket game, to be bowl eligible for the first time, it's in an IU football way. I think there have been some spoiling of fans' expectations over the past years with the consistency and frequency of going to bowl games and like playing, a competitive game against an Ohio State for a half or two, and the expectations are up a little bit. Whereas it's like, I don't think that Indiana football is still much more than let's just get bowl eligible, right?
Totally agree.
And I don't like maybe Tom Allen is the guy that's going to eventually bring them to a level beyond that. But for me, it's always like get 6 or 7 wins. 8's a great season. Go to a bowl game. Give IU football fans something to travel for in December and call it a season, right? The one Tennessee a couple years ago. Was it the Gator Bowl?
Yeah, they should have won.
Yeah.
They kind of blew it, but yeah.
So, yeah, Nebraska coming up this week for a lot of reasons for them is if Nebraska is anything, it is the doormat of the Big Ten right now, and it will tell you very much, like Texas Tech in the Big 12, and Texas failed that opportunity to prove that they can beat teams they're supposed to. Like that's the thing for IU: beat the teams you're supposed to, get a couple cupcake pre-conference schedule games. To bolster up the win column, and don't lose to Rutger, don't lose to Nebraska, and so I'm not hanging anything if I'm an IU fan on Saturday's loss to Cincinnati, who by the way was in the playoff last year and was ranked at the beginning of the season and played an Arkansas team pretty closely. So I mean, yeah, I'm with you on that. It's just kind of like, okay, it was a loss, you played well, you had a chance to win, slipped away from you. Not focus in and try to at least take out half of your Big Ten schedule.
You basically have to find 3 wins out of Nebraska, Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan State, Purdue.
Oh, they got the S. You give them the S now.
You see what they did to IU last year?
I know.
They trounced them.
But that was the moment for you, though, right? Finally.
Where I was like, I can't make fun of it. They were holding wins over both Purdue and Indiana in their last game.
Yeah.
So,
but I feel there's something personal there, too. And I don't know if I wore this hat for you today, the Happy Gilmore Waterbury Open. Totally Connecticut driven. So I feel like, is there something personal against New Jersey that you have, or do you just?
No, I mean, nothing like that. I mean, the fact that my college ex-girlfriend Megan from New Jersey broke up with me because she didn't think that sports media was a serious career path, and now has come to find out that I'm actually like a really big deal and have made a life of it for 15 years. It has nothing to do with that. Or Carly, who was from Princeton, who broke my heart in the summer of 2001, and I found out she was seeing her neighbor, who she said was not like that, and they were always just close friends and whatever else. Like it has nothing to do with either of those things. Like New Jersey's a great state. I don't think you can trust anybody there, but overall, I've got no problem with New Jersey.
Empty the tank.
Yeah,
just let it all out.
The shore's nice. The TV show I like as well. The New Jersey Shore.
Anything else?
Okay.
I want to make sure that you're emotionally and mentally supported here.
Yeah.
And if I ask you a question that triggers you, I want you to, empty it out.
Oh, I'm good. I think I got everything out.
Nothing personal, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, nothing.
So anyway, they earned their S last year, and so you got to get 3 wins against those teams.
Yeah.
I think you do, and then I think I don't care if Purdue's ranked. Like I know Purdue has had some years.
That game historically is a toss-up game for the most part.
It's like you got to get those 3 wins, and then it's like, for me, it's the way I think of it, and I'm sure IU fans relate, is like Texas could win 2 games as long as one of those 2 games is against OU. Like IU could not be bowl eligible, but you still need to beat Purdue.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same way with Purdue. Like whether they're bowl eligible or not, like you don't, like that game is the one that you add to the must win on your schedule.
Yeah. Let me backtrack, because toss up is the wrong. Purdue has dominated the all-time series, right? It's a game though. I think that you feel like it's mostly competitive.
Yeah.
I at least recently it feels like it's been mostly, and I know Indiana beat some really bad, the Daryl Hazel Purdue teams, but so coin flip probably is. I don't think you don't put Purdue in the same category as Michigan, Ohio State as auto loss, Wisconsin auto loss. Right. Like Purdue's not an auto loss. That's why I threw them into the conversation.
No, I totally understand the sentiment, and it's a good bridge, I guess, to transition to Purdue, because I was just seeing that score come across the ticker on Saturday morning, and I don't know, like, is FAU that really that
Not really,
good, or was that just like
you
think it was the helmets?
Extremely short.
You think it was the helmets?
The Owls. Yes, that's right. They were extremely shorthanded without several key frontline players, and it just felt like one of those games where you're just like, okay, just survive.
Yeah.
Just win so we don't have to talk about it, and they did that. it looked several times like FAU was going to take that game from them, and then the defense stepped up and made some plays. So I'm not sweating it. I think you need to get Aiden O'Connell back and healthy. I'm very worried about how Minnesota looks, because that's going to end up being Minnesota is a team that causes them problems anyway.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a difficult game.
I typically don't feel bad for Purdue fans. I'm not anti-Purdue. Okay,
Jeez, that's cold-hearted.
But I think here's the thing for me is, even though I'm not like an IU fan, I still have a connection, having gone down, lived down there, gone to school, etc. A lot of my friends, diehard IU fans. I'm nowhere near that. But I've always felt like Purdue was more the football school and IU was more the basketball school. Obviously, that's just from a 30,000-foot view. Clearly, in the last 10, 15 years, it's been Purdue basically.
And you were alive. You were coming of age in the Breeze era and all of that when that really started to change.
That's why I kind of feel. Yeah. So for me, like, I actually felt bad for Purdue on the Thursday night game, or was it Friday night game? It's Penn State.
Thursday night game. Yeah, IU played Friday.
I genuinely felt, Purdue fans, I felt bad for you in that moment, and a couple of my close friends from I think that are diehard IU fans, like, it's one every now and then you get in a game where you're not like, yes, lose, right? Like, there are IU fans that are like, Purdue lose every time, I don't care. There's other times where, like, I felt some empathy coming from some IU fans about the game, because it's like, that was an electric game. You're at home. Ross 8 is totally underrated. I think a lot of people.
It's a great atmosphere.
They people look at that and the size of it, and it's kind of like, without the massive press side, it would be a pretty small stadium. The atmosphere, though, the games that I've covered there, it's always been an electric place. And so it's Thursday night. You got the wild light system that they're doing now, and things.
Everything gets black every time they score.
Yeah, it's raucous. Like, you're just like, man, this is awesome. And Penn State, which I'm like, I can't figure Penn State. I cannot figure out Penn State for the life of me. I don't know what Penn State wants to be sometimes. Right? They win the Big Ten a couple years ago, and it looked like this. Franklin's going to have this train rolling in Penn State, and they're going to be like a Big Ten juggernaut. And then it's like, I can't tell.
They immediately kind of went like this. Yeah, you're right.
So Purdue, I felt like that was a game they should have won. I mean, if you're going to have a Thursday night home opener game, and you want to continue to make strides in the Big Ten, and you always show up for big night games, my money was on Purdue, and then they just kind of slipped through their fingers, and I felt bad. I felt bad for Purdue fans.
They should be 4-0, really. They should, at the very least, they should be 3-1. Like, they should have split. The Penn State and Syracuse games were both games that they really had won, and they lost both.
The Syracuse game too, like the Syracuse game for me, that's another one that Purdue fans, like, my heart,
Purdue would that happen to.
I know, or Texas, but teams that you probably should beat, and then you don't. I think that's what I'm getting at, is the expectations of Purdue fans and the expectations of IU fans. IU loses to Cincinnati Saturday, I'm like, no, whatever. And I feel like they're, for the most part, most of their fans are like, okay, we could have competed, we could have maybe won that game, but I think most people are thinking of the schedule the same way we are. They only need 3 more wins to get to a bowl game. Yeah. We're 3 or 4 wins left on that schedule, whereas Purdue is like, you want to go into Big Ten play having beat a Big Ten opponent that you open the season on 4-0. And it's just kind of like
you're shooting for 9 wins.
The expectations, like a 10-win season would be a really big deal up in West Lafayette. Whereas, like,
7-5 would be amazing if Indiana can do that. I think there is a different level of expectation,
and so that's why I feel sorry for Purdue fans when they lose to Syracuse, when they lose to Penn State, versus like Indiana and Cincinnati fans. I'm like, you guys, calm down. You got back to Bloomington, probably went out to Kilroy's, maybe hit Sports Up for a little bit, or the upstairs, and On to Nebraska, right, for IU.
That's right, and on to at Minnesota, a tough game, who's jumped into the top 25 this week. The PJ Flexters there. It's a noon start there in Minneapolis. Yeah. And Notre Dame beating North Carolina, we kind of talked about it earlier, a surprising offensive performance, albeit against just a disastrous, hilariously bad North Carolina defense. North Carolina is the same team to me every year. They have an NFL quarterback and like 2 NFL receivers, and the rest of the team is complete garbage.
Yes, and it's so interesting too with Mac Brown, because like that job.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
he was at North Carolina. There, He was at North Carolina pre-Texas, goes to Texas, then he's on TV, and then he goes back to North Carolina, and it's just guys that can recruit.
They always have athletes.
Yeah, the guys. Matt can recruit, and I don't know the development component, but you're right. They've got like Mitch Trubisky was a dude there. Yeah. So yeah, they are kind of like that school, and you can't ever really figure out if they want to take the stride in the ACC. Because like I know Jake wouldn't be shocked by this, but like here's the thing about college football, especially it's not so much like this in college basketball, but like with Alabama fans interacting with them, they were very nice, but the kind of arrogance they carry is as if that Alabama has just been a steamroller right, for forever. And that's the same thing with like Clemson. There are some Clemson fans that act like they didn't have 5-win seasons in the 2000s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So North Carolina, it's like could very easily take that stride out of nowhere, be a competitor in the ACC, and Notre Dame being kind of like that half ACC school during the fall. I think that was a really big, for everything that's gone on, I think that was a really big win because North Carolina does have athletes. We don't really know what North Carolina wants to be. It's a game Notre Dame could have easily lost by 14 points.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it totally could have been a game.
Yeah, if they played like they did against Cal or Marshall, for
with
sure.
the way that this was going, it was like, this is a game that if they go in there, they could very easily lose like by 21.
And then they're going to go 4-8. And now you look at it and you're like, hey, maybe they can go 8-4.
Yeah, like now it's totally changed. I think football this weekend was that there were games that were played both on Saturday and Sunday that changed the trajectory of the way fans for those teams are thinking now, right?
Yeah.
All the way from the Colts all the way down to Purdue, right? Like, it's Notre Dame. I still don't know what they are. Like, I know that they're not going to be a playoff team this year or anything like that, but I think that everybody wants it to work out. I know that the players were. You've seen the video when he comes in the room right after they announce, everybody, the team loses their mind. I mean, he's a player's coach, but I think that you're not going to figure out what they are under him. If it's going to be his program, you're not going to figure that out this year. I think you look at Tom Allen and Brom, like they've had several years now. You kind of know what to expect from them. You know how they recruit. Like, I think Notre Dame's fans need to take it easier on themselves this year because it's very brand new in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a little bit of a transition out of a successful end of the Kelly era. Let's get to our hero of the week. We talked about the sandwich, the pit twist. I think you got to – I was going to do this because it was an historic moment for Albert Pujols. But I really thought that, when Joey McGuire took the Texas Tech head coaching job, there was a lot of thought that, perhaps this wasn't the right way for him to go. You take over in an historically dominant program. There's Coach McGuire right there. How is this going to work this year? We need an early statement to know that the Red Raiders are here and they're staying on top in the state of Texas. And they did that with that overtime win over Texas. Now, things get much, much harder. They have to go at Kansas State. You're talking about just these programs that they face after Texas, Kansas State, Oklahoma. They've got to play Baylor, who also is better than Texas. Kansas, who's better than Texas. Oklahoma, who's dominated Texas this century. So
you're having a time, aren't you?
It's going to be interesting to see where he can go. But I think Red Raider fans have a lot of faith in Joey McGuire after that win. But you're going to have to prove it more. You can't just beat the Texases or the UT Arlingtons of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go on and fry bigger fish.
Yep. What a time for you. If there's anything I could give you to have me on the show, it was
I think this has been a great show.
The joy that you have had
I'm really
in this.
enjoying the show.
Okay. Well, see, again, I thought we were friends. I thought this was like we're
great friends.
I thought this was a show of like, let's show everybody that the reason I'm having you on a co-host is because you've filled in for Corey and Schultz before when we were on the radio, and it's always kind of felt like Corey and Schultz, right? And sometimes even when you say back to Corey and Schultz, back to Corey and Schultz, it kind of sounds like you're saying Corey and Schultz. And so I come in here, I drive all the way from Greenwood, by the way.
Yeah, it's a hike.
I come in here to be bludgeoned over the head with Texas Tech ranting and banter, and that's fine. I'm happy to. If it makes your Monday better, by all means, invite me and let me be a vehicle for happiness for you to get joy
you've been that vehicle.
out of
Thank
this. You. I know it's also like Jake is like a stronger and taller and larger specimen than you, and like there's probably some intimidation factor.
He has gained some weight with the heart pills. Yep.
You don't get to necessarily ever do this to him, right? Because he's your best bud. But so for me, I get to come in here and you're kind of taking advantage of that, and that's fine. That's fine. My hero of the week is I'm going to stay away from anything to do with Texas and Texas Tech. My hero of the week is going to be Kansas State because if anybody who watches Big 12 football or just traditionally understands Kansas State, you talked about having teams' numbers. It was like no doubt in my mind. Like I don't say this out of like the anti-OU fandom, right? Like there literally was just this feeling I had Saturday that I was like, K-State's going to do it again. Like 3 of the last 4 meetings, I think they've beat OU, and they go into Norman and they got it done. And it was one of those things, as any person who responsible bettors will understand. You watch that and you're like, why didn't I put money on that?
Yeah.
Like I was so confident in that. So yeah, my hero of the week is going to be Kansas State, or literally anybody that ever beats OU. I just wish I would have put money on it because it was no doubt in my mind that the Wildcats were going to get it done again.
The hindsight betting is tough. Real hero of the week, Albert Pujols, 700 home runs. We might not ever see that again.
No.
I gun to my head, I'd say no. He's hit 14 bombs with 3 different 2-homer games since August 6th.
Yeah.
And it really, it looked like he was going to end up at like 692.
Yeah.
And then, okay, that's your career. For him to get there, it's incredible.
It felt less likely around like the 689, 690 mark than it did. And they got to like 696 and it's like, oh my God, he's going to do this.
Yeah.
If you catch, you keeping that ball? If you're that guy?
I'm not going to give it away for free. I'll tell you that.
Where do you stand on this? Because this has been really hot topic on Twitter of recent. And it's people, there are some people who take the stance that you're being greedy and a jerk and it's not your accomplishment if you go to the team and you're like, hey, I have the ball, but here's what I need in return.
Yeah.
Or if you go sell it. Jorge Soler, the home run that he hit against the Astros in Game 6 last year, I think that thing went for a pretty penny, like a Braves fan collector bought it. If I'm not saying he's pedestrian, he was the World Series MVP, whatever they won, but if that ball went for good money and I catch 700 from Pujols and I know exactly what you just said, that this probably never happened again, we're not even, like, we're probably going to be closer to double-digit millions if you want this ball, if I'm selling this. Like, this isn't just a milestone ball. This is we're probably never going to see this achieved again. And so for me personally, I thought it in my brain, like, if I catch that ball and the Cardinals come to me, I'm like, I want $100,000. I want season tickets for the next 5 years, and I want his jersey that he wore tonight signed. Like some sort of like,
like I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
Like I want the St. Louis Cardinals to pay me a check for $100,000. I want to have tickets, which is also an investment because I'll just sell half the season. Like I'm not even a Cardinals fan. I would just sell those tickets, right, for the next 5 seasons. And I want his jersey that he wore tonight. And I want it framed. I want it signed. I want it personalized. I would even tell them personalize it. My name's Corey.
Of course.
To Corey.
Yeah.
700.
They do that for you. 100 grand. That's a drop in the bucket.
Because if not, I'm going to sell that thing for millions.
Yeah.
But there's people that are like, that's so selfish and that's dumb and fans shouldn't get to dictate that. And it's like, no.
I completely disagree. It's my ball.
Yeah.
It's mine.
It's mine now.
I don't owe it to you.
It's not like catching the ball.
If I want to do it, then fine.
It's not like catching the ball makes me a 700 home run club. Like people are always like, that's his accomplishment. I was like, and it is. And he'll be remembered for it.
And this is my property.
But this is now my ball. You know what I mean? Like,
I completely agree.
I don't understand the idea that everything has a price. There's no bargaining chip there. It's like what?
It's okay to be cold-hearted.
Yeah.
If that's what people want to characterize it as, I have no problem.
And I feel like I'd be giving the Cardinals a break by just saying $100,000 in cash.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
for sure. Or you catch Aaron Judge's 62 and ask for $100K. The Yankees are worth how many billion?
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
There's no reason why you shouldn't ask that. Anybody out there, ask it.
Yeah.
If you ever are in that position, ask it.
Go get yours, guys.
Yeah.
That's our message to you.
Yeah.
On Corey and Schultz, as we continue next, more features to get to. We also have our Ball State cards in 60. We're going to be up at the Shoe coming up here on Saturday. And a famous race car driver, longtime champion race car driver, stepping away from the sport, at least full time. We have that coming up for you next here on Corey and Schultz. I'm going to keep using that.
That's nice.
ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
He said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back, Corey and Schultz, here on the ISC Sports Network. Thanks to Corey Elliot for filling in for Jake Query. Even though his Longhorns got beat on Saturday, he still mentally brought himself to be able to appear for this show, which I very much appreciate as we're taping this here on a beautiful Monday morning, a beautiful fall Monday morning in central Indiana. Got a couple of things to get to in our quick hit segment. This is kind of the segment where we just hit on the things that aren't like the A topics, but at least we want to mention. You know, when you don't have a 4-hour radio show every day, sometimes stuff kind of falls through the cracks. So this is trying to make sure that some stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. I'm not sure if you saw this morning, but Jimmy Johnson retiring from full-time racing. The 7-time NASCAR champ, at least when it comes to full-time, calling it a career, and looks like he's going to focus more on his family. 47 years old. He says he has no idea what his schedule will look like, but he's got about 10 bucket list events, and you wonder, is it going to be like Le Mans? Is it going to be the 500? Maybe you do the double. You do the Coca-Cola, and then you do the 500. But no more full-time racing for JJ.
Yeah, it's wild. I think a lot of people, the 4 years or 5 years in a row, was it? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. That's what I probably will remember the most about his career. Other than, I appreciate that he came over. I would thought it was so cool when he came over to IndyCar and was like a full-time IndyCar driver, like to do that. Usually you see guys, do one-off kind of stuff. But yeah, he's I don't know. Like, speaking of things we'll never see again, like that run that he had where he won those consecutive championships was just insane. I know the point structure and all that, how they keep track. The playoff format has changed since then. Maybe it wouldn't have happened. But if there's any sport where you literally have more things out of your control than you do in your control, it's auto racing. And to think that the guy didn't blow a tire, an engine, hit a wall, get collected in another accident, and any one of those runs, and everything just went his way.
Yeah, just churned out the results. I
just
seemingly every week.
Mr. Consistency. So I hope he does some cool stuff. I hope to see him back in the 500.
I think we will. And a great dude. One of the coolest things I ever got to do in my career was drive around in the pace car with him, just me and him. And we did victory donuts on the back straight where he was pulling up the e-brake. And Doug Bowles had realized that he didn't make me sign the injury waiver, and he was hearing the tires squealing from the finish line and briefly panicked before he saw the Camaro come back around the corner. So that was cool. And he couldn't have been a nicer guy to me, at least that day. Yeah. No more Pro Bowl. The NFL deciding to end that. It's going to be the Pro Bowl games, and will feature AFC and NFC players showcasing their football and non-football skills in challenges over several days. So this year it'll be Vegas. Flag football game will be at Allegiant Stadium, and Peyton and his Omaha Productions company are going to help shape the programming and promotion around the event.
Awesome. I love it. The Pro Bowl, the game itself, should have ended when Sean Taylor, rest in peace, blew up that punter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that play.
Mormon, was that his name?
Yeah, I mean, I like baptized him. Like soul left his body on the field, and that I was like, maybe this game shouldn't be played at this level. Like maybe we could do some more fun stuff. Yeah. Shouts to the guys that'll still be Pro Bowlers and they'll get their bonus. But bigger shout out to the fact that they don't have to go and put their body through one more week of full contact, full speed game.
And the ratings will be great because they always are. Doesn't matter what you do; it's football. People watch.
Look, here's the thing: the All-Star game in the NBA, it makes sense, right? I've never understood how like an exhibition game where someone could get an injury, like if you get hurt in the Pro Bowl based on injury timelines, you're done for the following season.
Yeah,
I've never understood why guys willfully played in that, and maybe they don't go 100%. Yeah. I don't know, but
they were going half speed for sure. But sometimes that could be even worse to get injured when you're not
because you're not paying attention, you're not doing the right thing. Yeah. That's I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's a welcome change. Yeah. But it had been since 1951 that they played some sort of a game, and now that game's going to go away. Final one for quick hits. Powerball ticket was lost for a month in a Missouri woman's purse. She was shocked. I don't have her name here in the article. When she found out that there was a Powerball ticket worth $50,000 that had been sitting in her purse. She was from St. Louis County, bought the ticket on July 16th. For a drawing at the Walmart store in Manchester. She tucked it into her purse where she forgot about it and then looked in her bag, went online, checked the ticket numbers. It won $50,000. It was still valid. Went to the gas station the next day and let them know that she had a $50K winner. Is Katie a big purse?
No, I mean she likes her bags. I mean, that's like a
but I mean, is it like is her whole life in there? Because some women do that.
Okay, so let me just she'll be very reckless with her like her debit card and her ID.
Yeah,
the amount of times in a week where it's like, do you have my ID? Where's my ID? And then she like reaches down in her purse and it's just rogue, amidst mints and like keys, and I'm like, put it in the wallet.
Yeah.
Right. So let me just start with
that. Gives me a panic attack thinking about just a loose debit card in a bag.
I was having like deep breathing when you were telling the story because like, here's the thing: if I'm playing the lottery, right? As anybody who has or does, you put it on like the fridge or something when you get home, right?
Yeah.
Or you put it somewhere and you have the day when they draw it. And you know the numbers and you have the day and you're waiting anxiously if your numbers are drawn. So I don't know if this person is just like forgetful. Maybe she forgot she bought it
all the time,
or maybe she buys it all the time. Or maybe she doesn't need $50,000 and was like, whatever. Which, but I cannot fathom the buying of a ticket that could have somewhat of life-changing money and being like, oh yeah, forgot about that thing. Oh, you're a winner. Oh, cool.
It's like finding $20 in the laundry in your jeans pocket, but you just times that times, I don't know, like 500 or whatever it is.
I don't understand. I don't understand the thought process of buying something like that and then you don't keep track of it. Or at least like have the day, like I get throwing it in your purse.
Yeah.
But at least have the day that you know it's being drawn and be like, oh, this is today. I need to check this out.
I've bought lottery tickets under 10 times in my life, but each of the 10 times I was very aware of when the announcement was and where I'd take it on the fridge. My dad always put them in the visor of the car.
Yeah. It's like it's like betting an NFL parlay and then just not paying attention to anything on Sunday. And then getting back
a month later, you're
back
checking
on your
the
app
check
a month,
marks.
you're like, oh, cool, I hit $150. Doesn't make any sense.
That's how gambling goes, though.
Yeah.
The people that do that are the ones that win probably more than they lose. We had mentioned college football from in-state over the weekend, but had forgotten to mention our friends at Ball State. Unfortunately, had a fourth quarter lead again and fell short. We're unable to close it out against Georgia Southern as they lose 34-23. Cards now 1-3. Good news is that it's not a MAC game. So you get back into conference play this week with Northern Illinois, who we'll see them face off against after we do the Corey and Schultz live edition coming up here on Saturday. And some good things to build on. You remember Carson Steele from Center Grove?
I was actually just about to bring that up.
Yeah, went over the 100-yard mark again. He's had 424 rushing yards so far this season. But Ball State needs to learn how to close.
I love some action.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciated back when they made the efforts to have like nonsensical Tuesday night games. Like you just play, like Toledo just played the Thundering Herd on Saturday night, and then like you turn the TV on Tuesday, and Toledo has had 48 hours to not only get back to Ohio, but to now prep for who was coming into town for a Tuesday or Wednesday night game. Action. I will say Ball State was always an underdog visit for me when it came to like my friends that went to Ball State. If we came up from Bloomington for the weekend, I was always surprised by how good of a time I could have at Ball State.
Yeah,
and I mean that wholeheartedly in the sense of like Muncie's kind of like a drive-through. You don't really think that there's much to stop there for, and then you forget the campus is there, and it's actually a pretty good time. So
yeah, the campus itself is very much like the collegiate feel that you get just on a smaller scale, obviously, than Indiana or Purdue, but certainly more than just a commuter college or something like that.
Coworker of mine, senior regional manager of strategic partnerships, Kyle Letter, a Warren Central alum. He's a chirper.
Yeah,
chirp.
Lots of Ball State folks in my life too.
Love some action. Bring back the Tuesday night action.
Or Wednesday night, or anyway, I think there was did they put it on Monday night one time? I feel like there might have been a Monday night action game.
Put it on a Sunday. Hear me when I say play a game Saturday at noon, and go from that game to the next game, right? Neutral location action on Sundays. Why not?
You're the ideas guy for WGU. Now you can be one for the MAC as well. How about that? We'll wrap up next. We've got Love That Place still to get to. Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bull Bleep as we tie a bow on episode 104 of Corey and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages in a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Back for a final time here on Corey and Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. Jake returns to my side coming up Saturday for our next show, which is a special edition live remote from Ball State, which was what we've been talking about. And then, of course, next week, things as normal, as we'll recap the Colts game against Tennessee, a really big game coming up here, and get back in the saddle again as far as the normal stuff with Corey and Schultz. But appreciate you coming in, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, always a good time. I think this is like maybe I came on the show when it was radio. Sometimes it's just like for a segment or two. I know I co-hosted a full show with you twice. We personally, like, nothing against Jake. I think the future of Corey and Schultz is Corey and Schultz. And I think that can be in all however you want to map it out, you know.
The show can get younger, kind of push Jake out. I mean, he almost died a couple of years ago. So
well, you said it. You went there, but
it makes sense.
No, that's what I was saying. But yeah, glad to be here. We love working with you guys. We had several years now. WGU Indiana has been a part of a lot of the programming here at ISC, so we appreciate you giving us that space.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the alliance on all sides of it. Let's get to our Love That Play, brought to you by our friends at Love Heating and Cooling, 353-2141, love-hvac.com. They've been in the business, Chris and John Love and the rest of their crew, since 1920. Not Chris and John, they weren't even born yet in 1920, but Love itself has been around for over 100 years, taking care of all your heating and cooling needs. Lots to choose from here. Colts had a couple of big plays as well. But I stuck with probably the biggest play of the entire football weekend, and that was Trey Wolf's 20-yard field goal to beat Texas. When you're on the brink of suffering and a humiliating defeat against an inferior in-state opponent, to come through like that and just kind of center yourself and want to avoid that at all costs, I think Texas Tech was able to do that with Trey Wolf's 20-yard field goal, which sailed through the uprights. So just a great play, a great kick.
That's
great.
Yes. No, I think that's great. I didn't know you were such a Red Raiders fan.
Yeah, big time.
You know that they throw tortillas on the field and
I know, I love it. I was doing that in my living room. Just after Bijan got the ball popped out, I was throwing the tortillas all over the place.
That, speaking of really quickly, the NIL stuff, right? He has his own mustard line, Bijan.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Bijan Mustardson.
That's perfect.
So
I love the fact that guys can
do that now.
People get so angry about the stupidest stuff. Like, let these guys make some money and capitalize on it. Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to keep guys around campus longer instead of going to the NFL if you can give them a little bit of money to make it worth their time to come back and try to win some games.
For sure.
Yeah. So mine wasn't so much something that happened. I mean, I guess I could go Kansas State again, but for me, where my mind is at is I'm sort of forward thinking on my the big moment for me is going to be when the Yankees once again fail to reach the World Series.
Okay.
And the Astros once again go back, and people in their salty tears can watch us again Houston again in the World Series. But I think what I'm getting is I not only it's not that enough for the Yankees to not get to the World Series. It needs to be once again at the hands of the Houston Astros. It has been the joy of my life since 2015. 15, 17, 19.
Forgot about the 15 wildcard game.
Yeah. 15, rough. 17, and 19. And why not? 2022, let's do it again.
Okay. I probably deserve that with the way
Houston defeats the Yankees again. Yankees fail to reach the World Series for the first decade ever.
Back to our buy or bowl bleep here. Let's go ahead and get to that. Not worry about what else Corey has to say. Brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens, chateaukitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for the before and after pictures. They're great. Give them a call. They've done so much great work in our house. Got about 2 minutes here, Corey, so we'll make this a little bit quicker. Colts have to win Sunday to win the AFC South. Buy or bowl bleep?
Bowl.
I think they have to. I think you got to beat Tennessee at home. At that point, you'd be 0-2-1 in the division.
I rescind my first answer. Yes, but I think there's a caveat to it.
Okay.
Right? Like the Colts aren't in control of what the rest of the AFC South can do the rest of the season.
You're right.
So hang it on one game.
It feels like the kind of game that
they need to win more to just win.
The division's so important this year, right? I mean, they got to stop messing around with these teams.
I'll buy it. I'm not going to pay full price.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk you into that. But yeah, I buy it. I think they do have to find a way to win. How about this one for a twist? I'll be honest. I need to watch them probably before I can really answer this because I haven't seen them this year. Minnesota, not Michigan, will play in Indianapolis this December. Buy or bowl bleep?
I'm going to buy it because I'm going to buy it because the Big Ten West, or what used to be like the Leaders or Legends division, right? Yeah. Like that is a my God. Why not, right? Are they going to get curb stomped in Lucas Oil? Absolutely. But will they get there? I don't see why not.
No, I mean, Michigan's got a much tougher road in the East, obviously, so I'm not as hell-bent on Michigan being in there, but I think Minnesota's got a chance. And Ohio State is
Yeah,
really
it just
good.
feels like the West, that division is just disastrous.
No, it is. It's been the little brother for a while. Thanks to Chateau Kitchens for Bite or Bull Bleep.
Yeah.
Thanks to our friends at Lou Malnati's in the Lou Malnati's studio, Bailey and Wood Financial Group, Hoagies and Hops, Love Heating and Cooling, and, of course, WGU Indiana and our friends at Ball State for being great partners of ours. Thanks so much, my man. Appreciate you coming in here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, too. Yeah. And when you said little brother, it just made me think of the Astros and Yankees again.
Yeah,
because Yankees are little brother.
Well,
so
we'll see if,
I appreciate you having me.
We'll see if Texas can bounce back and make the, Holiday Bowl or whatever the heck. That's basically what they've been relegated to for the past 20 years or so. For Corey Elliott, I'm Derek Schultz. We'll see you next time here on Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.